the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. My name is Brian Wallace, and I am the MS Michigan Man 64. The MS Michigan Man 64 podcast is about chronic disease awareness. I have had multiple sclerosis for the last 27 years. It's an invisible chronic disease that I've been battling for half of my life. I want to share with you what it is like living with the chronic disease from my experiences and the experiences of other chronic disease warriors. We can fight to have a voice to those that want to listen. Together, we can motivate and educate. Hi, welcome back to the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. Today, I am talking with a return guest. I had Debbie on in episode 5. She is from Colorado. She was diagnosed with her MS in 2014. I've been friends with her for about a year now, and we are just all about trying to spread awareness about our disease, about living with multiple sclerosis, what it's like. Please welcome back to my podcast, Debbie. How are you doing today, Debbie?
I'm good. How are you, Brian?
I am doing all right. My friend. Debbie,
Good.
I invited you back on. I just love talking to you. Like I said, we've been friends for about a year now. I talk to you almost every day, and we're just on the same mission. We're just trying to spread awareness about what it's like living with MS, and I know that you do lives on TikTok, and we're a part of that community together. And I know that you just wanted to come on and just talk about, how important it is just to find that community, just to help cope with this disease.
Yes, thank you. So, yeah, I'm live every Tuesday afternoon on TikTok. And then I also join in a fellow ambassador, Jeffrey, on his live most mornings. Um, and I just think it's very useful to have the community spreading that awareness, letting people know that we're not alone. I went 9.5 years before I found the community, and I never knew anybody with multiple sclerosis. Very few people I had known in my life with any kind of chronic illness, and nobody that I was close with. And this disease and most chronic illnesses can be very isolating. So I think finding community is so essential to our health and well being. And I'm just honored to be able to be a part of spreading that awareness and connecting fellow chronic illness warriors to one another so that we can share our experience, strengths, and hope, really, and help each other to see that we can do this one day at a time.
Yeah.
So that's my aim, really, with with what I do.
Yeah, absolutely, Deb. And I know that the reason that we do this, I've been doing this 27 years, and you've been doing it for almost 20 years now, a little bit over 20. And I know that we've had this conversation on the side quite a few times, and a lot of it is just that we know what it was like. The fear that we were in, when I was 27 years old and when you were going through your diagnosis, and we don't want anybody to go through that fear. And, it's just that community to find just people that understand. I think it's just so important because we understand it, and we're just trying to help people just to get through that initial fear of being diagnosed and knowing that life isn't over. You still have a lot of life left to live, and you just got to learn how to navigate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And learning how to speak up for ourselves and to push for what we need, learning to self advocate. The first 10 years of my journey, I was undiagnosed and I was going to medical professionals and I was getting gaslit. And I was being told that it was all in my head, or that I was just a sensitive female, that there wasn't anything wrong with me. I had a professional one time tell me if I could not come back, he had patients who were actually sick. So I can't be the only one that's experienced that. And through talking with other warriors in the community, I've learned that that is a pretty common experience that a lot of us suffer with and struggle with early on. And so, to be able to go back from my experience and share what I've learned and how I learned to advocate for myself and hopefully help people to not have to go that long without getting the answers that they need so that they can figure out how to live their best life is really close to my heart. And so I like to share on that and to help connect people and give people the tools and find other people that have gone through similar experiences and help them to just get the things that they need to be able to advocate for themselves and to find different options if they are hitting brick walls with getting diagnosed and with getting answers or treatment once they're diagnosed. It's because it is life changing, but it is not life ending. And you can find a way to still live and thrive and live your best life. It might look different, but it's still doable. But the isolation can definitely make us feel like we're all alone and that nobody understands and that it's hopeless. And that's not a good place to be.
No, no, it's not. And and that's and I know we talk about this a lot. I know the mental health part of this disease, for me, it's always been the hardest part. I'm in I use a cane now. I use a walker. I even use a wheelchair. The physical part has been a difficult part. I'm not going to lie about that. There's challenges, there's pain involved, but the mental part of this disease for me has always been the hardest part. The getting to the point where I wasn't able to work again, getting work anymore, getting to the point where I wasn't able to walk without a cane. Those mental health barriers have been the hardest part, and I just my whole goal is to try to help people to understand that you're going to come up with these roadblocks and you got to figure out ways to get around them and to get through them and to keep on living no matter what happens with this disease, because we don't know. I mean, there's no clear cut path on data diagnosis to the end of your life on where you're going to be. You might go into remission the rest of your life from the date of your first episode, and that's great. And you might be in a wheelchair in the first year and a half, and that's okay too. You're just going to have to figure it out either way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing too about multiple sclerosis. It's definitely, commonly known as the snowflake disease. And that's, it is so very different. And so when you talk with different people that are living the experience, we all have different stories. We all have different courses that our disease has taken and how much it impacts our day to day living varies greatly. But there's always hope. And even if you all have limitations, there are ways to adapt and still thrive and be successful. But it's being humble enough to be able to say, okay, I need to use that rollator now, or wow, I got to use a wheelchair, or I just recently got my power chair, and that was very humbling. But it was time, and it. I was looking at it from the wrong perspective. I was like, man, this is meaning that I'm giving up. I'm giving in. And the reality is, I wasn't going down the street a block and a half to the park because I couldn't, even with my rollator, walk that far. And with my manual wheelchair, I don't have enough strength in my arms to roll myself that far down. But now with my power chair, I can go down there. And so it's actually by being willing to use the tools we need, it allows us to have the ability to continue to be actively involved in living our lives.
Hmm.
And sometimes when we save that energy too, from walking, we have enough energy to enjoy what we're participating in instead of just like sucking it up and getting through it.
Yeah. Let me ask you this though, Deb. How did you get over that mental hump of using the cane for the first time and then using a walker and having to use a wheelchair? Because I know that that's difficult for people. It was difficult for me because I was a guy. I was a former football player, big, strong guy, and I did not want to be seen with that cane, with that rollator, because it was a sign that I was weak. And how did you get over that mental part of it?
Well, I didn't handle it very well, which is another reason that the community is so vital and important. And I advocate so much and I try to get new people into a community and help connect them with other people who are living with multiple sclerosis or whatever. Mostly it's multiple sclerosis that I work with, but that the people that follow me and that I'm knowledgeable on. but other chronic conditions as well. Like I also have the POTS diagnosis, and I'm not super schooled, but I can definitely connect people to people such as like Maggie who have a great bank of knowledge in that specific
Mhm.
chronic condition. But any of us, we can connect, and I get other people, and I can connect you to other people that struggle. But for me, I mean, when I got diagnosed in 2014, it came on hard and I lost my leg. And I've had mobility issues since then. They never went away. I've had ebbs and flows. I've had times that I could get around easier with just a cane than I can today. My endurance has gotten less and less as time's gone on with the progression. But I didn't handle it well, and what I personally did was I isolated, and then I had a tendency to overdo the alcohol, and I went a little crazy with that, and, since then, I've sobered up, and I haven't drank alcohol in over 8 years now, but I had to decide, like, am I gonna sit in my bed and just wait for the end to get here someday? Or am I gonna go, okay, fine, put my pride aside and do what I needed to do so that I could be engaged and live my life and be available for my children, be available for my husband, participate in things, be part of the community with my friends, and I don't know how I got there as much as I just finally decided that I was too tired of sitting there waiting for it to all end. And part of that was addressing my mental health. Like you talk about all the time, mental health is a huge piece of this disease. And there's so much of our disease that's invisible. And so you might look fine, but you might feel absolutely terrible. And what we experience is difficult. And especially, I think it's almost more difficult when it's not visible because people are less empathetic
Mhm.
and tend to discount the reality of the struggle that we're facing. When somebody sees me in my wheelchair, they're like, "Oh no, you're unwell." When they see me with just a cane or just standing there or sitting there, I don't stand very much, but um, I look fine. And so people are less empathetic. But sometimes when I'm struggling the most, it may be less visible than when I'm actually doing better. Because when I'm doing better, I have enough energy to be out and about in my power chair or in my uh manual wheelchair or with my rollator or on a really good day, maybe even just with a cane or forearm crutches or something.
Mhm.
And people are more empathetic because they see me with these tools that would indicate that there's something, quote, wrong with me. But a lot of times when I'm struggling the most, I may not present as unwell as I feel. But I think it's just a matter of just finally deciding that what matters is what I'm doing. Who do I care about? I care about my family, my close friends, and if outside people don't get it, like recognizing that their opinion or their whatever isn't really none of my business and it doesn't matter. I need to do what's right by me. That allows me to be available for the people that do matter. And the people that do matter are going to be understanding if I'm willing to open up and communicate and educate, because that's part of it. Nobody's going to get it if I don't explain. If I don't ask for help, I can't really be mad at people for not helping me.
Yep. Yep. And I think that is so important that what you just said about we gotta we're in control as the person with the MS to how much we tell people and when we don't tell people how we feel, how we're doing, that's on us. That's our fault. And I did that a lot. I kept it to myself a lot, and I'm more vocal about it now. I'm more. Maybe that's because I'm older, but and I was younger, and I guess you know more masculine back then, and I didn't want anybody to think that I was weak and all that, and I kind of hid it. But I think that that is important to let people know the way you're feeling mentally, the way you're feeling physically. I think that is so important in this journey, especially the people that are around you, your spouse, your kids. Let them know how you're feeling so that they can understand this disease. Because if we don't talk about it, how the hell do we expect them to understand it?
Right. Well, and if I don't share, how do I expect for future people to be able to get there? It
Hmm.
took a lot for me to get there, and it helped having the community. I had made a lot of progress on my own, just accepting it. Just my hands were, I mean, MS kind of forces our hands a lot.
Hmm.
I mean, we always have a choice, but we don't have good choices sometimes. And it's like giving up is, everybody can do that, but sometimes it's a hard choice to pick up and be like, no, I'm going to carry on despite the struggle. And I've had people say to me, well, I keep going because I don't have a choice. And I correct them. I say, whoa, 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 you do have a choice.
Hmm.
You're making the right choice, but we do have a choice. And there are people we've all heard of or know of people that has made a different choice and have given in.
Right.
And so we choose, and it's something to be commended for us when we get up every morning and we warrior on through the day, knowing that we have struggles, knowing that no day is to be taken for granted. But we have blessings that come along with that too.
Hmm.
And the fact that we continue on and we can provide hopes to other people and we can pave the road for those that are coming behind us. Nobody should have to do this alone. And sometimes we choose to, and sometimes we're just not aware that there's other resources out there. That's where the awareness piece is so close to my heart. Nobody should have to do this alone. Nobody should have to. And we have to learn a lot. Like, I didn't know that I would have to go to the doctor and advocate and beg and know what questions to ask and beg them for tests to help get me diagnosed and all that stuff.
Hmm.
And so if I can share that kind of stuff to the next people that are coming behind us, so that hopefully they can get answers sooner. They can get community sooner. They can get some support sooner. They can gain the ability to advocate for themselves and to become willing to humble themselves and do what they need to do to be able to still live and be successful in their lives. It's different, not impossible now.
Yeah.
Things are different. It takes creativity and going about life in a different way, but we can still do hard things.
Yeah, and you just perfectly segued into the next thing that I was going to talk about, and that was the way that we have to think outside the box sometimes. And I know that you have a great story, and I wanted to share mine before yours. This past weekend, I actually went to the Ohio State Fair, something that I haven't done in 10 years, and I thought outside the box. My wife made the arrangements. I got a reservation for a power scooter down there. 10 years ago, I would have said, hell no, I'm not going to do that. I can't do it. I'm not going to go drive around in one of those scooters and I'm not going to enjoy myself. And I would have just stayed sheltered in my house. But I went to this fair and I had a blast. Other than the fact that it rained down there, but I mean, it was so awesome that in 10 years I haven't been to an amusement park or a fair because of this MS. And I thought outside the box. My wife thought outside the box, and I got to enjoy that. And it was just such a good thing for my mental health. I want you to talk about how you are thinking outside the box and how you're going on this trip and you're getting on a plane for the first time in how many years by yourself, and you're just going to go enjoy a visit with another fellow MSer, because I think that's an awesome story, Deb.
Yeah. So, okay. So I love traveling and I haven't traveled a lot independently in my life just because I've always had kids and stuff with me anyway. I've never actually flown by myself only because I never had an occasion where I wanted to go somewhere and didn't have somebody to take along with me for it. But I haven't traveled at all by myself really since I've been diagnosed. And I will be flying out October 1st. And I'm flying from where I live in a small community in Colorado to DIA in Denver, and then flying from there to another little small airport in another part of Colorado to connect and meet with a warrior that goes by the name of Hayden on TikTok. And we are going to spend 4 days together and connect. And I'm really excited, and I've been kind of dragging my feet about it because I really wanted to see this lady, and I've talked to her in the past about it. But I don't drive anymore. I do drive a little teeny bit in my rural community locally, but I can't drive anywhere that's populated, and I can't do the highway or interstates anymore. It's just too quick. I have too much delay, and I have a lot of visual issues as well.
Mhm.
So it's just, I don't feel safe anymore. I had to give up interstate driving a couple of years, about 3 years ago now.
Mhm.
And I was like, how do I make this work? And my kids are grown mostly now. And I'm like, how do I make this happen? And my husband is kind of a homebody, and he's also got, we have an apartment fourplex and we manage that. And it's really difficult for us to both be away at the same time, because every time we both go somewhere, something goes wrong.
Mhm.
But I was using all that as like this excuse not to do stuff, and then I was like, wait a minute, there's an airport 20 minutes up the road from where I live because we're near a ski town, so there happens to be an airport nearby, luckily.
Mhm.
And this lady that I really want to see has an airport right where she's at. I could fly. And I started making the plans, and I'm flying out October 1st. And I'm really excited, but I feel a little nervous because I'm like, oh, I'm traveling by myself, and what if something happens? And then I was like, I'm not going to a deserted island. It'll be okay. I'm going somewhere, and I'm going to live my life,
Yeah.
and I'm going to find ways around it instead of making excuses. It's always easier to make excuses, but it's like, if I want quality of my life, I have to be willing to put myself out there and be creative and find ways to do it,
Yeah.
just like you did. And I'm super proud of you for going out and doing that and being humble enough to get that mobility aid and
Yeah.
up the game and do what you need to do so that you can still live your life.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Deb. I'm proud of myself too, because like I said, 10 years ago, I would not have done that. And, I just can't wait to see the pictures from your trip when you go and see Hayden down in the southern part of Colorado. It's going to be awesome. I love seeing other MSers connecting with each other. I know I had a chance to do that. I went up and seen some TikTok MSers up in Michigan, Kathy Chester and Jeremy. I had a blast up there. It's just such an awesome, awesome feeling to meet with somebody that you met with on TikTok or whatever social platform you met them on. To actually meet up with them in person is just an incredible experience that I went through, and I know that you've been through it, and that's just part of this community because we get each other and we're in this fight with each other, for each other, and we're always going to be there in the downs and the ups, and we're going to cheer each other on, and because we just get each other, and that's what I love about this community.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I have a couple of experiences in the past year. A year ago, just over a year ago this month, I was out in Kentucky and I met a warrior named Lorna who was out there. I went out for my son's wedding and I had my kid with me when I traveled, my 12-year-old with me, and we went out and his big brother was getting married and we got to see that and take part in that experience, and I had the opportunity to meet Lorna when I was out there, and that was amazing. That was the first investor I'd met in person, and the first person from the TikTok community. And that was super super memorable. And after that, this past Christmas, I was out in Arizona, um, seeing my parents. I was out there with my sister, and I got the opportunity to meet up with another warrior who goes by Digit Walk 2.0 on TikTok.
Hmm.
And we had a heck of a time, and we got to go and we had to experience Macy's and check out this mall. And it was quite the adventure. And those memories are amazing. And then I also like the opportunity to get a little bit of footage and share that so that other people can see that like there's ways to make it happen and keep getting out there and living your life. Whatever you want to do and what your goals are within reason, you can find ways to do it. It it takes planning. You've got to be smart about it. You've got to be realistic. I like those smart goals. Specific, measurable, um,
Hmm.
attainable,
Yep.
realistic, and time sensitive.
Yep.
I can't do everything I used to be able to do, but if I really want to do something that I used to do, I can usually find a way to make it happen. I don't golf anymore, but on a good day, I can go out there and use a cart and watch my son golf. I
Hmm.
can still have those experiences. It's being creative and figuring out different ways to do it and deciding whether we want to. I used to be a downhill skier and I hung up the skis. And people go, well, you could, there's this program and and they could ski you down and you could have these. And I'm like, I don't want to be out in the cold. I'm like, I'm okay with letting that be a memory from the past and just leaving it alone.
Yeah.
But then there's other things that I still want to be doing. And so I'm like, how do I keep doing those things? And traveling is something that I do enjoy doing, meeting new places and seeing new things. And I thought I would get to do that more in my adult life. Was born and raised in this little community in rural part of Northwest Colorado. And my plan was I was moving away and I was going to go see the world. And life didn't quite work that way. I've been a few places, but not quite what I had planned.
Hmm.
And I'm like, well, I'm 44. Life isn't over. I can still do those things. Let me start figuring out how to make it happen instead of just making excuses to why I can't do it.
Exactly, exactly, and that is so just so important. It's you got to figure it out, and there's modifications to it. I love to fish. It's always been a passion of mine my whole life, and I still figured out a way to get on a boat. It's not easy, but I don't want to give that up. I'm not ready to give that up. And I have friends that help me. Anything that you enjoy doing, you might not be able to do it the same way you used to be able to do it, but you can make modifications to still enjoy it.
Sure. And also, if creativity goes further than that, in my mind, too, that there might be some things that truly you might say there's no way. You looked at it, you thought about it, it's just out of the cards. It's not there. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, we can pick up new activities, new hobbies, new things that we want to do. We can find new ways to connect.
Hmm.
I I was a child welfare and adult protection caseworker. I loved working with the people. I was passionate about it. I worked 80 or 90 hours a week. I was gung ho. It was good. It was hard. It was stressful. It probably wasn't the best thing for my MS, but I really liked the work.
Hmm.
2 years into my diagnosis, I had to stop working. I could not handle it anymore. I couldn't do the job. I couldn't keep up. I was doing a disservice to my employer and to my client because I wasn't able to do that anymore.
Right.
And I sunk into a super deep depression. I needed mobility aid to be out and to live life. I went to the Walmart and some two ladies came up to me and were like, "What are you doing in this cart? You need to save that for old people that actually need it." And I went home and I didn't go to the grocery store again for like a year and a half because I was mortified, right?
Yeah.
I didn't handle it though. But since then I've went, no, no, I have the opportunity to educate other people. And then people that don't want to learn and don't want to be educated, well, that's on them. I don't need to worry about it. I can just go about my business and they can, what they think is really none of my business. And that's okay too. But I have the opportunity to spread some awareness. And for those that would like to learn or are willing to listen, I can help to educate. And then, and I do that with my platform on TikTok with my lives. It's an opportunity to connect to other warriors. It's an opportunity for anybody else that comes in that maybe would like to learn a little bit about living with chronic illness, living with multiple sclerosis. And it's a place that I can do that. It gives me a sense of purpose. I'm still helpful to others, I hope, in a way that I was used to be able to do that with my employment. I can't keep up with that kind of stress and that kind of job. It became unrealistic. I had to hang that up, but I could find something new that I can do. And I go on once a week to make it realistic for me. I could overdo it and try to do it, every day. But for me, I don't know that I'd be able to be sustainable with that.
Right.
But I've been doing this for over 2 years now. And part of that is because I can be consistent when I'm realistic about what I put on my plate.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, Deb. I love it, man. And that's just part of this journey that we have to learn, and this isn't, there's no clear-cut path on how you approach this disease. And you learned it through the years, and I learned my way through the years. And I think, what we're both just trying to say is you can't give up. You got to keep on trying to figure this thing out. It is doable. It's hard, but you can find positives in a very negative disease. There's a lot of positives, and if you look for them, you can find them. I found them. I know you found them. They're out there.
Right. Well, and I think it's like this. I mean, it's being realistic, like looking at my situation realistically, being honest and open about it. I have multiple sclerosis. My multiple sclerosis has progressed quite a bit. I am terminally disabled. I require mobility aids. I can't go any duration without a wheelchair of some sort at this point.
Mhm.
I can walk still. I can even take some unassisted steps, but I cannot do any real out and about in the world without mobility aids.
Mhm.
And in my home where I know where everything is, I can do a little bit of bouncing from one wall to the other on a good day.
Yeah.
but but out in the world, I definitely need mobility aids for sure all the time. And but if I'm willing to be humble enough to use those things, I can still get out there and I can still live my life.
Yeah.
And that is something that I've learned. But it's like being realistic about where I'm at because I was like, no, I'm going to just refuse to have MS. I'm not doing it. I'm not playing the game. And I'm not going to use mobility aids because I don't want to and I don't need them. And it just made me trapped within my house because of those choices. And when I learned to say no, I'm going to do what it takes to be able to keep living my life, I found a lot more joy and happiness.
Mhm.
And it's being like, my life isn't over, but I have these struggles and they're real and I can be really sad and I still get down on it. It's a bummer but it is there's nothing I can do about it,
Mhm.
but I can decide how I'm gonna live with it.
Mhm.
And how miserable do I want to be?
Yeah.
Do I want to add to that, or do I want to focus on the blessings, what I do have, and ways to still live my life
Am
despite the struggle? And that's where I choose to focus.
Yeah. Amen. Amen, Debbie. I love that. I love that. And that's just such a great approach to have with this disease. And it's not easy to get there, but you got to find a way to get there. And I just love talking to you. You are just full of so much great information. I know we have so many great conversations in those lives. And if anybody wants to follow you on TikTok, Deb, what is the name that you go under on TikTok? And I'll put that in the description. I absolutely recommend if you are on TikTok, find Debbie if you have MS or any other kind of chronic disease. She's just an awesome, awesome lady to talk to. But Deb, go ahead and give your name on Debbie, how you put it on TikTok.
Yes. So on TikTok, I'm Debbie, the MS Warrior Mom. And my middle son actually picked my name, so that was really sweet of him.
Uh,
I wasn't sure what I was doing when I got on TikTok. I was like, I don't know, I'm too old for this nonsense. And I really love the platform, actually. It's really fun. The lives are really enjoyable. I love doing those every week. And it's really an honor to be able to take part and be a piece of the community.
mhm.
And when I was on my live yesterday, it was awesome. I had a gal that came in the room that had been diagnosed for 2 weeks and was scared and had a lot of questions. And we were able to wrap our arms virtually around her and kind of lift her up and show her that there's options and there's ways to continue moving forward
Yep.
and help her to answer some questions about the concern she had about how to advocate for herself and how to what are the next steps with dealing with the medical side of things and because there's a lot that comes with the diagnosis and I look at it like I had to give up working but just living well with chronic illness is a full-time job so
No kidding. No kidding. But yeah, and I think that's why we do what we do, Deb. That's why I do this podcast. That's why you do your lives on TikTok. Is just for for the person that was on your live yesterday that was 2 weeks into this disease and was scared. And they found you and they found somebody that has been through this a while and that is just so important because I didn't have that 27 years ago. And for somebody to have that now, that is just such an important tool that I hope that everybody realizes is out there. I mean, it's TikTok. I never thought in a million years that I was going to be on TikTok 2 years ago, and here I am, and I got 1,600 followers, and the majority of them have MS or other chronic diseases. And it's just an awesome, awesome platform. It's an awesome place. It's an awesome community, and I love it. And this is a 55-year-old guy that has never been on a social media platform in his life telling you that this is a really, really great tool if you have MS or any other kind of chronic disease.
It is, and I'm so grateful for technology being in my situation because we can bring the community to us. It can come right into my living room. Um, I can virtually meet with people and make those connections. I can also do a lot of other things, like I can pay my bills and do my shopping and take care of things like that virtually that would be really difficult for me to do in person at this point. I can save a lot of energy when I can do a lot of those things remotely and still get it done and still feel that sense of accomplishment because we all want to be able to take care of our own business, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And technology allows us to do that. And the community was such an amazing find. I really wasn't looking for it. I didn't know. I mean, everybody's like, come on, my husband and my kids were like, check out TikTok, I love it. And I'm like, what am I gonna do with this? And I had it and I didn't know what I was doing. And I was just and then I ran across people in the community and I was like, what is this? And then I found it. And then it really warmed my heart, and it helps me get into a better place with my mental health. It helps me to find meaning and purpose in my life and my existence.
Hmm.
It's given me belief on opportunities. It's helped reunite me with the idea of travel. And now I'm starting to do that a little bit and finding ways to utilize that and spread awareness and make connections with other um, people that are struggling, other warriors. And what an amazing thing that it's brought. And I didn't think I was missing anything in my life. I mean, I knew my life was like kind of a bummer and I was dealing with this really difficult, progressive
Hmm.
chronic condition, but I thought that I had a handle on things. I really did by the time that I found the community. And I've gained so much. I couldn't imagine now not having it, not having the connection.
I
I
know.
know like last winter when they were thinking about getting rid of TikTok, that was pretty terrifying to me because I was like, I found this community and it's meant so much to me and it might be going away. And I know myself as well as many others were scrambling, looking for alternative places that we could still keep connections. And everybody's like, here's my email, here's my phone number, here's my this, here's my that, because
I know.
we were scared to lose what we had gained because
I
it's
know.
so essential.
Yeah.
And it's made a huge difference in my journey and my ability to live my best life with multiple sclerosis, even though I thought I already had it figured out because, I wasn't new to the diagnosis by the time I found the community. But it's useful. I mean, even if you're not new to the diagnosis, community is so.
It changed my life, Deb. I mean, 27 years with this disease. I've only been on TikTok for about a year and a half, 2 years, and it really did change my life. It changed me. It helped my mental health, and it opened up a different world for me. Just meeting people from all over the world. I recorded an episode with a lady out in Norway, and she didn't even have MS. It's just that the connection of the community of chronic disease warriors is unbelievable. And I would definitely, definitely recommend anybody that's new in this journey, if you're not on TikTok, download that app and get into a community with whatever chronic disease you are suffering with. There's other people out there that are in the same situation that can relate to you, that you can have a conversation with, and they understand what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And there are people in the community that I'm friends with that have POTS or gastroparesis and other GI type issues. I struggle with a lot of GI issues as well. And I gain a lot from those people in our community as well. It's not just people with MS.
Mm-mm.
I think we can all learn from each other. And the more we learn from people with other conditions and stuff, the more empathetic we can be.
Mhm.
I think that, naturally I was a bit ignorant myself. And ignorance isn't a bad thing. It's just not having the knowledge.
Yeah,
Refusing to learn, to be willing to become knowledgeable is different, but just not knowing stuff is, we all don't know things. That's
right.
okay.
Yeah, I say it all the time, Deb. Ignorance is a choice, and there's things that I'm ignorant about. When I recorded the episode with Maggie about POTS, I think that was one of the first things I said when I introduced her is I'm like, I'm ignorant to POTS. And that's why I asked Maggie to come on because I don't want to be ignorant. Ignorant is not a bad thing, but you have the choice to change that. You gotta educate yourself and learn about things to understand them better so that you're not ignorant.
Right. And we are our number one advocate when we're living with chronic illness. If we're not going to advocate for ourselves, I mean, I was I was very ignorant with the whole medical thing, but I had to recognize too, like how much does it matter? It's got to matter more to me than it does to my doctor, and I've got to push for those answers. And if I'm not getting what I need, then I got to ask for those second opinions. But that's where the community is also valuable. Like I finally got my diagnosis in 2014. The first lady I saw was like, MS used to be a big deal. It's no biggie anymore. You'll be just fine. We're going to give you some medicine. You'll be totally good. And I asked her what type of MS I had, and she said, "Oh, you have relapsing remitting because that's the most common type, so that's what you got." And I was like, "What?" So I got a second opinion, not that I doubted the MS, but I was like, "I don't know if everything this lady is saying is really that spot on."
Hmm.
And that second neurologist I saw was more like, "No, it's maybe a little bigger deal than that, but we will give you some medicine that can help with relapses, help you have better quality, etc." And then my MS has been nothing but theorized and progression independence of relapse activity. I have not had one single solitary change on my MRIs in the 11 years that I've been diagnosed. Um, I've had an MRI every 6 months or more since diagnosis until 2 years ago. I'm uh, super overdue for an MRI, but that's another story. But um, then through the community, I started hearing about this thing called MS specialist. And I thought, yeah, I see a specialist, I see a neurologist. And they said, no, 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 Debbie, there are people within the field of neurology that specialize in multiple sclerosis.
Hmm.
And my general neurologist, my second one, both my neurologists I'd seen were just general neurologists because I live in a small community. They don't have specialists where I live that specialize in multiple sclerosis specifically. And um, my general neurologist kept saying, "Well, your MRIs are stable, so you're in remission. You're not progressing. Whatever else you're experiencing is, you are getting older. You're a woman. You're going through the change of life. It must be all that stuff, but it's not your multiple sclerosis. You're stable." And I was beginning to really doubt that. And so I did finally discover through the TikTok community this thing called an MS specialist. And so I learned that over in the Denver area, about 5 hours from where I live, that they have an MS specialist in the state of Colorado. And I asked for a referral and I got on the wait list and I waited 8 long months. And last August, September, I went and I saw this specialist and they were like, "No, your MS has progressed. You're progressive," and we talked about what that meant. And I made a DMT change. And I was able to further be more gentle with myself because I was trying to live life like I'm fully in remission. Everything's good. I should be able to do 100% of what I used to be able to do. And I wasn't able to do it.
Hmm.
And I was blaming it on myself and not doing enough. I've made a lot of lifestyle changes. I quit drinking, I quit smoking, I've changed my whole diet. I went on the low FODMAP elimination diet. I totally reamped how I eat. I don't eat processed foods. I mean, I've made a huge amount of changes and I was still having trouble. And I was like, man, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. And seeing this specialist and getting recognition that no, it is your MS progressing. It is not anything you're doing actively or not doing. It's just the disease doing what the disease sometimes does.
Right.
I could be a lot more gentle with myself. I could accept that if I'm doing 100%, that's good enough. And if my 100% might not be what it used to be, or it might not be what somebody else's is, that's okay. It's still my 100%, and I can't do more than my 100%.
Right. Yeah, I love it. And we gotta figure out what our limitations are, and that's part of this journey too. Debbie, I really want to thank you for coming on with me. I will have you on, you know me, I'll have you on repeatedly because I love talking to you. And I think you have so much great information just to help people to manage this disease because you're all about the awareness like me. So I will definitely have you on again just to talk about your journey with your MS. And I really want to thank you for coming back on and joining me again today.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I enjoy coming on. I'd love to be on again in the future. And it's always refreshing to just chat about our experiences and to help share with this community and try to get it out there to as many people as we can. I don't want anyone to ever have to do this alone. And I want people to know that there are other people that really do understand and there is support, there is resources, there are people that have experience. I talked to somebody that was interested in the HSCT, and I don't know anything about that, but I know of a person that does, and so I was able to connect that person to that other person, and they were able to get some direction in that. So as a community, we can all support and help each other. And I just want to say, perspective in my mind is everything when it comes to life, but living with this disease is especially. And it's like you can be as miserable or as happy as you choose to be, and it all comes down to perspective.
Yeah. Thank you, Debbie. I really appreciate you. And again, I want to thank you for coming on. If you want to follow me on TikTok, you can find me MS Michigan Man 64. You can also find me on Instagram, MS Michigan Man 64. And I'm on Facebook, Brian Wallace out of Brunswick, Ohio. Until the next episode, it's the MS Michigan Man 64. I am out.